When it comes to planning a church, there are a lot of things and details and processes that go into the process of launching a church. But the good news is you don't actually have to have everything figured out on day one. So in this episode of Practical Church Planting, we're going to share with you 5 things you don't have to have on launch day.
Welcome back to Practical Church Planting, where in 15 minutes or less, we'll give you practical tips, advice, and encouragement to help you plant and grow healthy churches. My name is Brian Androsi, and joining me today is a sniffly Dylan Dodson.
You got me.
Fighting a cold. And today we're going to give you 5 things that you don't need on your launch day.
So this is particularly going to be the encouragement part of the little intro that we give.
Yes.
There's a lot of pressure, I feel like, when you're starting a church to have everything figured out on day one. Mm-hmm. And while you do need to have a lot of things figured out, depending on who you are, maybe not as many things as you have, or you need to have more things figured out than you probably think you do. But the flip side, it's really easy to compare and to look at all the churches and how everything they have everything, and it's easy to compare yourself to people who have churches that have been around for forever.
Yep. When
you're just beginning. And so this list, I mean, you could disagree on some of these. And we're not saying you shouldn't have them. Like, if you can, that's fine.
Yeah.
But you shouldn't beat yourself up over not having all of these, because some of these things just take time. And so hopefully this is an encouragement to you.
Yeah, and I think this. I think some of this goes with how it's helpful to be a part of planting a church before planting a church.
Yeah.
Because if you've only been a part of established churches, even if you go through residency, it can be easy to look at them and say, like, I need all these things. But if you've never gone through the process, or even like kind of seen what it is, the early stages, then you probably think you need more than you maybe do.
Yeah. And for what it's worth, we didn't have any of these when we started New City Church, and we made it.
And we have not.
But maybe we were just a miracle, so I don't know.
Well, yeah.
So here we go. First, number 1, you don't have to have a first-year preaching calendar. In other words, you don't have to have the entire year planned out.
Yeah.
I used to get stressed about this because you hear online, big churches talk about how like they have these retreats and they have the next 2 years. And you're like, geez. Now, I'm not saying you shouldn't have a plan. Mm-hmm. It's good. I think like for us, we're typically around 6 to 8-ish months. Mm-hmm. Kind of planned out. It's flexible, but kind of a general idea. But especially in the first year, so many things are going to change. Like I remember, like 7 or 8 weeks in, we added a different kind of like a revision cast of what we're going to do. Like, it's just, you should plan, and I would maybe try to get 3 or 4 months out, but there's so many variables that first year that you should just, you don't have to get stressed out over having everything planned, because things are not going to go the way that you want. Some things are going to go better. Some things are going to go worse. I would have an idea, maybe have a book you're going to go through, or a series or 2 or whatever, but it's okay not having an entire year planned out from day one.
Yeah. And this goes with everything, but this one, especially more than the others, is be willing to be flexible. I mean, it's going to be way different, no matter good or bad. It's going to be way different than you expect things to be. Like, things are just, life happens and things change and stuff. And so as long as you're willing to be flexible, like if you're someone like me, if I was planning a church, the planning out the calendar thing, I think sounds really fun. And so I'd probably do that just for fun, but you can't be so rigid that I have to do what I planned before we even launched and didn't even really know what this thing was going to look like. And so don't, especially if you're not a big planner, don't stress that you have to have all this planned out. But even if you do have something planned out, just be realistic in that you have to be flexible with what you're planning.
Yeah. So again, first year preaching calendar, it's okay if you don't have 12 months planned out day one.
Yep.
Number 2, a membership process. Now, this might be, depending, I don't know, you might disagree and say, well, you got to have a thing. And I know some people, when they have their launch team, they have the team sign something, and that's great. All I'm saying is, I think it's okay if you don't have one.
Yeah.
One of the few things I felt like that actually worked well that I probably would do again is when we rolled out membership. We call it partnership. Was about 6 months in, because by then you have people got a sense of like the church and what it was and how to be a part. Like, it wasn't very shocking. It was kind of like, well, of course we're in. And so it really helped, at least in the beginning, to get it started. And so again, not to say maybe you shouldn't try to get some materials ready and have things in order, but with everything else going on, it's okay that you don't have a big formalized process, because part of it is, most membership processes like ours, you talk about your mission and your vision and your values and things you want to do, and those change, especially the first year. Yeah. And so you might do a membership process and have to redo it again the next year anyway. And so again, this is to say you shouldn't maybe have a way of asking people to join your launch team or to say that they're in, but I would say that it is okay if you don't have a full-fledged membership process from the beginning, because people, they're going to want some time to see what's going on anyway before they commit. So
yeah, and I think we did an episode on membership forever ago. So good luck. But I one of the things we said there, and I think is a really good idea, is to ask something of your members or your partners.
Yeah.
You know, we have people, we ask them if to be a partner, they have to serve, they have to give, they have to be baptized. And so to ask all those things on like day one, I think is kind of pushing it a little bit when people are still kind of seeing if, you know, they fit in here. There's a lot of things people are trying to figure out when maybe they're not on your like launch team, but they're coming to the church. And so to try and have all this figured out by day one, I think it's going to be a little bit before you really should implement it, at least on a kind of church-wide basis. And so spending all that time pre-launch on things that you could be spending, or instead of spending time on other things, maybe not the best.
Yeah, and two, for us, like, because I think it's like 5 things we ask of our partners.
Yeah.
A lot of them are already doing it. Now, you could say, well, what's the difference between waiting 6 months? Because let's say you wait 6 months or a year or whatever, and somebody's only been there for 2 weeks and they come. Mm-hmm. So what's the difference between that and doing it 2 weeks after your launch? The difference is after your 6 months, a year, once you're established, people can look around and be like, oh, this thing is like actually happening. They have people that are involved. If you do it right away, everybody's trying to figure out like what's going on here. And so I think it is a little bit different if someone's new to your church and they go through your partnership process, membership process, like shortly after joining. It's different if the church has already been around and has like somewhat of a track record of like doing things. Whereas if it's brand new, people are still trying to figure out what's going on.
Yeah. And like the other thing, it'll change. Like I think we have a very idealized idea of how everything will go before launching, and so you may think like I'm going to lay out all this doctrine and theology of what we believe and all this stuff, and then you realize like maybe the first time you do it, people don't care, you know. Yep. And I mean we've had the same process this entire time, but we've changed how we present it and how we do things, and so trying to get everything done before launch. It's I don't want to say a waste of time. That doesn't sound right, but there's other things you could be spending time on.
So it's okay, we would say, to not have a membership process from day one. Number 3, a small group assimilation. Now, again, some of these you might be like, we're not saying it's a bad idea to have. Yeah. We're just saying it's okay if you don't have one. Yep. Because the next episode we're going to do things that you should have on launch day, and so you should make sure you listen, because there are some things we definitely think you should have. We're not saying don't have everything.
What a teaser! But
small groups is also hard when you're brand new, because people are still getting to know each other and they're not quite sure. One of the things that we did, I don't know what episode number it is, probably one of the earlier ones, was we launched in April. In our first summer, we had something we called Dinners for 6. Which were groups of 6, sometimes 8. They met once a month over the summer at each person's house, or maybe they just went out to eat, and it allowed people to get to know each other. And then we launched our groups to begin with in the fall of that year, and we already had like 5 groups, which we would not have been able to do. And so it's okay not to have it from the very beginning, because people are still figuring it out. But again, one of the things that we recommend is like this idea of like a Dinners for 6 or Dinners for 8 or whatever you want to do. Once a month over 3 or 4 months, it's very low key, but then people actually like get to know each other and like each other. And so when you launch groups, it's just hard in the beginning. It's like everybody getting a group and trying to figure out where people live and how to get them connected. And not to say you shouldn't have one, but it's okay if you don't have one from the very beginning. Yeah, I mean, people, other than maybe like your launch team, when you actually launch, new people are coming, people are coming and going, you know, people are coming and not sticking. And I mean, people are just kind of figuring out if they're going to stay at this new church. And so to right away try and get everyone in groups, I think is kind of tough. The Dinners for 6 thing was awesome. Like it was, no one knew I mean, other than like the launch team, a lot of people didn't know each other. People were coming in that didn't know people. And so it was an easy way to get people to know each other without saying, I'm going to commit to be in your home every week forever, you know? So small group assimilation, it's okay if you don't have one. Number 4, a full band every single week. Whether you like it or not, you might have to be okay with this one. and so this one's probably like, you just need to be okay with it. And you need to know it's okay. Again, we've talked about this before. It's really hard when you're starting out not to compare yourself to like the other churches that have all the things that you want. But it's easy to overlook that there are strengths in every different size and iterations of a church. So big churches may have all the bells and whistles. And not to say they can't do it, but it takes a lot harder to get plugged in, and for community to happen, you have to be way more intentional. Small churches, it's way more organic and it's easier to get connected. And so it's okay. I mean, you want to have something. And what I've also seen too is that sometimes people will like pay to have band, like a full band, like the first couple of weeks, and then it goes to just like the one person that they have. And I get it. Like when you launch Sunday, you want to have maybe a little bit more, but then when you go back to like what you have, people are like, well, that's not. Like when we started, we had one guy we worshiped. In our launch Sunday, he was him, you know, guitar, and he sang. We had a cajon and like a bass player. And so going from that just down to guitar for the first, 4 or 5 months after that, like it wasn't a big... It's not a big drop off. Yeah. And so again, we're not saying you can't plan maybe big on your launch day, but it's okay that you don't have a full band every week. This is one of those things that just takes time to build. and you can really stress yourself out on trying to have it all planned out from day one. I think it's good to have someone who can lead well, especially by themselves, but it's okay if you don't have a full band every week in the very beginning.
Yeah, what I've seen is the churches that kind of launch with a full band or don't. I've never seen it be a good or a bad thing. It's more been just like people they know. So I've seen people that launch with a full band, and it's because they were musical people and just had a lot of relationships with people like that, and it just happened. And people that didn't, because that wasn't really the circles they ran in. But it wasn't like, but I guess all that to say, I've seen it done fine both ways, but never like a stress on we have to hire people, we have to get everything, and that's the most important thing. Like if it happens, and that's cool. But if it doesn't, it's not a big deal.
Yeah, and it's not a big deal too, because again, the flip side is you can kind of give this facade who you not really are. So if you have full band for the first month, or you have other churches have people that play, which is great, it just can make the drop off pretty steep when they go away.
Yeah, I think having someone like sub in, or maybe like for a little special thing, having one or two, or a couple people come in is fine. But yeah, like you said, if you're going from a full band and this production thing down to an acoustic guitar for the rest of the foreseeable future, it's just like, to me, it gives the facade of like, why are we trying to do this impressive thing to begin with if this isn't what we are? And neither one is really more impressive than it's just what you are. So be okay with it.
So again, it's okay not to have a full band.
It's okay
every week. And then lastly, number 5, a leadership pipeline. This is kind of like the buzzword. Everyone wants to have like a leadership development. We're a little over 2.5 years in. We still don't have like an official one. We tried different things, and again, when you're smaller, it's a little bit easier because you can be a little bit more intentional without having this big organized thing.
Yeah.
But all that to say, you should be intentional about like trying to find people, develop people, get them in positions where they can succeed and to learn and to grow and all that sort of thing. But it's okay if you don't have a big formalized process. I do remember we had this like process that we wanted to use, but it just like, it didn't happen because it just felt like too organizational and too like that's what you would do if you had 500 people, not if you had 50.
Yeah.
And so, again, not to say that you shouldn't have ideas of what you should do, but it's okay if you don't have this big official process, because even if you have a big official leadership pipeline process, you're probably not implementing it in the beginning.
Yeah, I think what this is all boiling down to is like, processes are good. Like, I'm a process person. I think that they're good, but trying to structure too much before you launch, you're kind of just basing it off of the unknown, like you're basing it off of what you think will happen, and maybe it will, but maybe it won't. And so like these things, it's not like any of them are bad, but if you spend so much time developing these things, that really you kind of have to know the culture of your church and know the people that are coming and the size and all these different variables to really be able to build something that's going to work for your church. So yeah, I mean, it's not like any of them are bad, but it's not the most important thing, I guess, is what we'll say.
So again, those are 5 things that you don't have to have on launch day. Next episode, we'll talk about some things that you should have. But again, to encourage you, it's okay if you don't have your entire first year preaching calendar planned out. It's okay if you don't have a membership process, a small group assimilation plan, a full band every week, or a leadership pipeline. You can work towards those things, but some of these things just take time with your people after you've launched to form.
Yeah.
And you can't just kind of make it up before it happens. Yeah. So thanks for being with us. If you have questions that you want us to talk about on a particular topic on a future episode, practicalplanting.com/questions, or on Facebook, the Practical Church Planting Facebook group. You can join the discussion there.
It's hopping.
Thanks for being with us, and we'll be with you next time on Practical Church Planting. Thanks so much for watching this episode of Practical Church Planting. Whether you're watching on Facebook or YouTube or Practical Planting, wherever you are, whatever you're doing, make sure you like or subscribe or do whatever it's telling you to do or should do on that platform.
And hey, if you are so tired of looking at our ugly faces, but you're not tired of listening to our beautiful voices, then you can find our podcast if you just search Practical Church Planting on iTunes or Google Play. Make sure not to just find it, not just to listen, but to subscribe.
Make sure you subscribe. Brian, tell them to subscribe.
Subscribe.
See you next time.